An entitled Karen attacks my bartender friend, claiming that he had stolen her credit card and that she was going to sue him if he didn't give it back. But after watching her scream at my friend about these obvious lies, I decided that enough was enough, choosing right then and there to put this Karen in her place in a way that she will never forget for the rest of her life. Okay, to start things out, for a bit of context, I work a high-stress job that involves a fair amount of direct confrontation. Before that, I worked as a bartender for 5 years, so my empathy is higher for those working in hospitality, especially post-COVID. Furthermore, my childhood wasn't great, so I have some anger issues, but my awesome wife made me go to therapy. I can't thank her enough, as it has helped me tremendously, and I would recommend it to anybody. My local bar is about a quarter mile from my house, so I walked over after a really frustrating day, and I sat down for a drink to unwind. The bartender and I have been friends for a few years now, and I could tell that he was stressed out. The bar is in a U shape, and on the other side from where I'm sitting is this drunken Karen and her sad husband in their early 60s. She is visibly intoxicated, loud, and very obnoxious. Her husband looks like this isn't the first time this has happened and has fully given up on controlling the beast. I'm checking the news on my phone and I'm sipping whiskey when I hear this awful Karen start to scream. She starts to yell out, "No, I gave you my card, and if you don't have it, then you must have stolen it." I glance up and I see the Karen is now standing and pointing at the bartender menacingly. Now, the husband is sitting with his head staring at the bar, trying to look as small as possible. The bartender is not one who deals with direct conflict very well and really is a very easygoing, sweet guy. He says, "Ma'am, again, you gave me your business card, not your credit card, and I cannot charge anything on this. Please give me another form of payment so I can close you out." He then showed her the clipboard check presenter with the receipt and her stupid card still attached. Now, this mistake didn't register in her reptilian brain whatsoever, and now the 20 or so people still in this bar are all staring at the situation, but nobody is doing anything about this. My anger, by the way, is now at a 5 out of 10, but I keep quiet, assessing the situation from afar. This Karen kept screaming, "How dare you? I gave you my card and you're a thief, a lying thief, and I'm gonna get you fired." Now, the husband was still not looking up, and the bartender is visibly trembling, as he's the only one managing the place, and like I said, he doesn't have a malicious bone in his body. Now, I'm at about a 7.5 on my anger scale, and I'm trying to think of a way to diffuse this, but my fists are starting to clench while my blood pressure rises, remembering similar situations from my old bar days. The two kitchen staff have now come out from the back to investigate the commotion, and they are looking on absolutely wide-eyed. Now, a regular patron did try to step up and try to explain what she did wrong, but this Karen screamed at him, loudly proclaiming that the bartender 100% stole her card and that he should be arrested. The whole bar then went completely quiet, and it was right about here that I absolutely lost it. Standing up on the footrest of the bar stool, I pointed at her from across the bar and I shouted, "Who in the world do you think you are, you stupid entitled jerk?" Only trust me, I didn't say jerk. I continued by saying, "The bartender had already told you 3 times you gave him your business card. What in the world is wrong with you? Pay your tab and get out." When I said that, there were 5 solid seconds of silence. All eyes were on me, but you know what? I said to myself, screw it. This entitled jerk deserved it. The bartender is stunned, but looks somewhat relieved. Then, amazingly, this entitled Karen begins to argue with me, but I cut her off mid-sentence. I say, "You need to shut up. You do not get to speak anymore. Pay your tab and get out." And it was like all the rage that I couldn't say as a bartender came out of me all at once. But then I decided to direct my anger at her stupid husband. I looked at him and I said, "You, what in the world are you doing? Pay the tab and get her out of here. How are you still sitting here?" This drunken Karen rambles some drunken gibberish at me, but I sit down and glare menacingly at the both of them. The husband finally pulls out his card, pays the tab, and physically escorts her out of the building as she continues to yell profanities at myself, the bartender, the bar's name, and literally everybody staring. I then pick my phone back up and I begin to finish off my whiskey, still loaded with adrenaline. The bartender then comes up to me and silently mouths a thank you towards me, handing me a shot of some sort while the tension in the bar started to die down. And finally, I was experiencing some peace and quiet, but not even 30 seconds later, I get a strong tap on my shoulder, and as I turn around, I see that it's the first customer who tried to talk to this Karen. Now, expecting no conflict as we were familiar with each other, I say hello and I ask him what's up. He then says to me, "How dare you call that woman such a horrible name? That was completely uncalled for." And he was aggressively saying this literally a foot from my face, while huffing his chest and invading my personal space. Now, this guy is also in his mid-60s and has the look and demeanor of a good old boy. And And right about now, I'm standing on the footrest again with steam billowing out of my ears. I look at him and I say, really? If you're that offended, why don't we step outside and have a chat? Then you can tell me how you really feel. But before it could escalate any further, the bartender rushes over and interjects. The bartender came to my defense and said that I did nothing wrong and that this guy needs to stop. That woman is vile, and I'm the only one who got her out of here. The bartender then asked for this guy to cash out, get his stuff, and leave. Well, this old guy looks at me incredulously, nods at the bartender, and then shuffles back to his seat. I sit back down and I thank the bartender, and I apologize for exploding, saying that my day was already awful before all of this happened, but he just waves it off with a smile, telling me that I have a free tab until Christmas. He then walks over to the register, comes back and hands me her business card. He says to me, do whatever you want with this. And it's then that I find out that she's a real estate attorney. And I think it's safe to say that you might know where this story is going next. The next day, I find the contact information of her firm's partner, and I email them exactly what happened. I received no response back. However, I did check this entitled Karen's LinkedIn page after the new year, and she had stopped working at the firm in December. So maybe it was karma, but who knows? But I hope she was fired or had to resign, because in my opinion, she wholeheartedly deserved it. Yeah, there's really no good excuse for acting that way. Like seriously, all you had to do was be a reasonable human being, and then maybe, just maybe, you wouldn't get called out in front of literally everybody. Like either she was so drunk that she didn't realize that she handed over her business card of all things, or this stupid Karen thought she was so important that she could somehow get away without paying her tab. And what's the deal with her husband? He was right there knowing that all of this was happening, and instead of being like, okay, it's time for us to go, or something like that, he just hangs his head in shame and sits there as if he's got no way of handling the situation. It's like, dude, you need to man up. This is such a weird way to act right now. But regardless, the way that the original poster shut this Karen down, in my opinion, is so awesome, because her behavior was absolutely atrocious, and she deserved to be put in her place in the way that she was. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for choosing to limit my involvement with my sister's kids after she chooses to use me as a bad example when teaching her kids any kind of life lessons? Because right now I'm very offended, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female, and I've always been close to my older sister who's 38 years old. I love spending time with her kids, and I often help out in my free time. Growing up wasn't easy. I juggled multiple jobs, and I worked hard to get where I am now without ever asking for financial help from anybody. Well, she's been using my past struggles as examples for her kids to avoid a lot lately. She'll say things like, look at Auntie, she struggled a lot because she didn't plan well. Make sure you study hard and get a good job so you don't end up like her. Then she will wink at me as if to reassure me that it's for their good. But what does she even mean by end up like me? I know that I'm not as successful as her or our other siblings, but I have a job and a place of my own. I've never asked for money from them or needed to stay with them in any kind of way. And I'm not rich, but I am financially stable now. It just stings because it feels like she's only focusing on the negative parts and not acknowledging how far I've come. Last week, she asked me to sit down with her kids to give them some kind of advice. During the conversation, she brought up a specific situation from my past as some sort of lesson of what not to do in life. Now, for reference, a few years ago, I went through a messy divorce that was emotionally draining and took a toll on my well-being. So she decided to use this difficult experience as a cautionary tale for her kids to warn them about the importance of making careful decisions in relationships. Every time I hear my personal experiences discussed in this way, it makes me feel exposed and reduced to a lesson about what not to do. Talking about it made me feel like my whole life was reduced to that one mistake. When I brought it up to her, hoping that she might have some kind of understanding, she just argued that she's trying to teach her kids to be responsible and learn from others' experiences. She thinks it's good for them to hear about my failures so they can avoid similar situations. I told her that I do get her point, but when she uses my past as a negative example without also acknowledging my successes, it honestly all just feels so unfair. I said that if she keeps painting me that way to her kids, I will seriously have to rethink how involved I am with them. I'm afraid about how this might affect our relationship and about how her kids will view me, but I believe it already took me so long to set any kind of boundaries. So at this point, I'm wondering if I'm the jerk in this situation, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister is being so rude to you right now, it is not even funny. She's literally painting you as a failure, like that's the only thing she's doing. She's literally going to her kids and being like, you see my sister over there? there? She's a bad example. You don't want to be that. And then, just like you said, she's completely ignoring all the good things that you've accomplished. And that is legitimately so insulting because you do not deserve that in the slightest. You don't deserve to have your life watered down in front of these kids as if that's all you really are. Like, you clearly have accomplished so many things in your life, and these are all good, strong things that you're proud of. So for your sister to cherry pick all the negative things that have happened in your life, in my opinion, is so toxic and just completely unacceptable. Am I overreacting for crying when my partner called the cops on me? Because after all the awful things that we've gone through over the past week, I'm seriously at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my partner and I had a fight last night, and it really wasn't even a fight to begin with. He had gotten his new car and had driven for 8 hours that day home because he couldn't wait for the weekend to get it. Now, I helped him get this car, so I asked in return that he would help me by just giving me details so I can fill in a form for a rental application. I want us to move out because the place we live in is too small for even one person, let alone for the both of us. And on top of that, he complains that it's a mess all the time. I just asked for this one small favor. I wanted it done that day, but he got his car without really asking me or anything, so I was going to do it tomorrow. I just needed some quick details like the street of his work and some references, and I asked for it to be done by tomorrow. Well, he then lashed out at me, claiming that he doesn't care about the house and that all he cares about is that he got his car. Now, I'm pretty upset by this, and I asked for my money back that I gave him to help get the car in the first place. And when I did this, he actually called the cops on me. They eventually came, but they didn't do a single thing. And I had to explain to them that this isn't the first time he has done this, and a few days ago, he had some weird psychological mental breakdown. Now, for a bit of backstory, he broke up with me because I wanted to go get the car this weekend when I have Monday off. But instead, he got mad and booked a flight for that day because I told him if he broke up with me, then I'll take my car back. He ended up missing the flight, but I was nice enough to drop him off to get picked up by the bus. But then, after missing the bus, he called me up and absolutely lost it on me. He was screaming at me that it was my fault that he didn't know he had to be there an hour before his plane. When I picked him back up, he lost it again. He tried to jump out of the car while driving at 100 kilometers an hour on the freeway. He nearly got me into a crash, and he tried multiple times again as I yelled at him for doing this because he seriously tried to unalive himself, and at this point, I'm just taking him to the hospital. Well, he didn't like this, and he said he would try to get out of the car when the light was red at a stoplight, but I didn't let him as he told me he would just jump on some train tracks because he couldn't get his car. It was overall just a terrible night, and I couldn't go to work the next day as I only got about 2 hours of sleep. Flashback to the present time, and I explained this to the cops and about how he is with me, that he is off his ADHD medication, but I don't think that it's the ADHD that's causing these outbursts, and they completely agreed with me. And they also said that they couldn't force either of us to leave. Eventually, his mother called, who has been supportive of me in the past, and on the phone, she basically told me to stop crying as it's not going to get me anywhere. She said that her son was tired from driving and that I should clean up the place because apparently he was also complaining that I wasn't cleaning. But here's the thing, I work 12 hours a day. We have our chores, and he wanted the dishes done, which is his chore, and I told him that I won't do it after how he was the night before. Like, it was awful to have the cops called and also have your partner try to unalive himself within a few days. He has agreed to therapy and booked an appointment in front of me, but that's a month and a half away. I don't think I can wait that long, and I'm honestly getting tired. I'm staying at my dad's while I wait it out, and I'm having a chat about us in public on Saturday to decide things out. I just can't keep doing this because I feel like I'm being used. So am I overreacting? Is it not right for me to cry? Do I have it wrong in some kind of way? What should I do? Wow, this sounds like an exhausting situation. Like, seriously, this guy is out of his mind if he thinks the way he's acting is appropriate. For starters, this guy does not sound like he is all there. I think it's safe to assume that he has some kind of mental health problem going on, especially by the way he was trying to blame you for everything going wrong in his life, but more to the fact that he tried to jump out of a moving vehicle. Like, that is insane behavior. This is a car we're talking about, and he's acting like this all because he couldn't get his way right when he wanted it to happen. So I know, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be questioning this entire relationship. This does not sound like someone I would ever want to be involved with, let alone live with them in any kind of way. Like, good lord, you can find someone way better than this. So to answer your question, of course you didn't overreact, because someone who's going to call the cops on you after you ask for your money back, in my opinion, does not sound like someone you ever want to put up with. An entitled jerk screams at a Walgreens employee after they forgot to check in for their stupid appointment. But after watching this all go down and deciding that I wasn't going to put up with it any longer, I walked up to this entitled jerk jerk and I put him in his place in a way that he will never forget. Here's what happened. So this happened back in the fall of 2023, and I had made an appointment at Walgreens for my booster COVID shot. I was running a little bit late, and I ran into Walgreens and got in line to check in for my shot. I was behind a woman who had an appointment before me, and while I was waiting, I overhear a man sitting in a chair, sighing loudly and sounding very frustrated. I continue to wait in line to check in, and while I'm waiting, he calls his wife and starts to loudly complain that no one has helped him yet, and that it's been 15 minutes since his appointment. She then asks something about whether or not they know that he's been waiting, and he responds that of course his appointment was 15 minutes ago. Now after I check in and sit down, he gets up to complain that no one has helped him out. Now you might be wondering, what kind of question did the Walgreens staff ask him that enraged him so much? But literally all they asked him was whether or not he checked in. When this guy heard this, he lost his mind. This guy said, "No, I didn't check in. My appointment was 15 minutes ago." The Walgreens employee says, "Please fill out this paperwork and we will help you as soon as we can." This guy then says, "Well, no one told me to check in. How am I supposed to know?" The Walgreens tech then calls the woman ahead of me, and as she walks in, this entitled jerk literally swings his head around, looking absolutely astonished. He's making faces and gestures, indicating that he cannot fathom how they could possibly call the person who checked in and is done with the paperwork ahead of him, and yet he himself has still not filled out a single thing. Now, I'm the next one to be called back, and he was complaining so much that he had no idea that he was supposed to tell them that he was there, as he just kept repeating, "Well, how was I supposed to know what to do?" When I get in there and I get my shot, I tell the tech who worked with me, "Good luck with the next person because you're definitely gonna need it." But then I get my own personal victory. You see, I work in retail, and I have wanted to tell some of these idiots off so many times. So I walk out of my shot, and he is still complaining. I start to walk out of the store, but I think to myself, no, this is my chance. So I turn around and I walk straight back towards him. And as I'm walking up, he is still complaining about not knowing how to check in. So I look at him and I say, this is not their fault. Somehow, all of us figured out how to do this without being told. This is always how appointments work. Now, fast forward months later, and I am still in awe that this man didn't understand how appointments work. I'm guessing his wife always handled everything, and he just didn't know how to function without her. But regardless, I'm so glad that I put this guy in his place because his behavior was absolutely disgusting. I cannot stand people who act this way, where they attack somebody in customer service because of their own incompetence. Like seriously, this guy had no reason to scream at these Walgreens employees. They didn't do anything wrong. Like the attitude of this old guy was just so obnoxious. He is so entitled that he thinks he's some kind of VIP where they're just gonna call him back as if he's someone that they're waiting on. But it's like, seriously dude, what are you talking about? The only way anyone's ever gonna know you're there for some kind of like medical procedure or like a medical facility in general is by going to the front desk and being like, "Hi, I want to check in, please." And the thing is, this guy absolutely knew that. He probably just forgot, and somehow that's everybody else's fault. But at the end, I love the fact that the original poster turned back around and said, "You know what? I've got nothing to lose. Let's tell this guy exactly how I feel." Because as someone who used to work in retail at one point in my life, that is one of my dreams as well, to step in and put one of these entitled jerks in their place. So to see you step in and actually be able to do that, in my opinion, is absolutely amazing. Am I the jerk for refusing to go on a family vacation that my mom is practically begging me to go on? Because at this point, I'm so tired of being a second mother in my house that I'm really left scratching my head, unsure of what I need to do next. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I'm refusing to go on holiday with my mother and 5 younger siblings because I am sick of being around them. Now, for starters, my mom is a single mother, and I'm like the second mother to my siblings. I do everything for my family and have put my life on hold to help my mother out. I do the school run and pay for almost everything that my family needs. My mom isn't able to drive because of medical issues at the moment, so I'm her personal driver too. So I take her anywhere and everywhere. Sometimes I feel like she doesn't consider that I'm a human being with my own life and needs, and she expects me to drop everything whenever she needs me. There are also things that my siblings can do that she will always only come to me for. She puts a lot of pressure on me to fix things in her life, and this has been ongoing since I was a child. I know my mom has some attachment issues, but things have gotten out of hand and I'm just so fed up with it. Now, as a reminder, I'm 25 years old, and yet she calls me constantly if I go anywhere. She tries to police where I can go and who I can be around. She always tries to talk me out of my plans, saying things like, "Well, why are you leaving me?" Even something as simple as me working in a coffee shop, she'll be like, "Oh, you hate us. You can work here. Why are you leaving your family?" And it's like, what in the world are you talking about? I'm going for a few hours. What is your your problem? My siblings think it's ridiculous that I even fall for it or even listen to her, but she's going through a lot right now with her health. I literally just don't want to stress her out anymore. Anyways, I always plan family trips, and we have a running joke where they all call me the family manager, and my siblings say that I act more like a mother than our own mother does. She just expects me to plan this summer trip, but I'm so behind in my work from dropping everything for her constantly. I want to focus on myself and my business this summer, so I said I don't want to plan the family vacations this year, and my 19-year-old sister is more than capable of planning it if my mom doesn't want to. Well, when I said this, she blew up at me and was being moody with me all morning. She mentioned that I would be paying for it anyways, so why not just plan it and book everything? She thinks she's entitled to my money because she's my mom. She thinks she's entitled to my time and that I'm selfish if I stop raising her kids. And at this point, I'm just so fed up. I want my own life. I've wasted so many years looking after her and the children. It's just not my job. So I told her I'm not going this year. I will pay for it if she needs me to, but I won't be there. But now she's in a weird state and she's refusing to talk to me. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, I want to start this off with a positive note and say that no, I don't think you're the jerk for saying that you don't want to be a part of this, but I do think that you would be an absolute fool to pay for that vacation. Why would you pay for a vacation that you're literally not going on? It doesn't sound like that's anything that you should be responsible for, and in my opinion, it is completely unreasonable for her to be like, okay, well, if you're not going, you're still paying for it. It's like, what is she talking about? That is not going to happen. And if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would pay for anything about this trip, because her entitlement is absolutely repulsive. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.